What happens when someone loses a major legal battle, then asks the other side to cover an $8 million legal bill? That's the question now sitting before the court after Blake Lively's latest filing, and Justin Baldoni's attorneys didn't simply object. They responded with a lengthy opposition arguing that the request is unsupported, excessive, and packed with costs they say should never be shifted to the opposing party. In several places, the filing even uses pointed sarcasm to challenge the submission, making it clear Baldoni's team believes the request deserves to be rejected outright. At the center of the dispute is a simple legal argument. According to Baldoni's attorneys, Blake Lively did not prevail on her defamation claim. Because of that, they argue she has no basis for forcing the defendants to absorb millions of dollars in legal expenses. Their position is straightforward: each side should pay its own bills, or, if anything, they argue Lively should be responsible for theirs. But it's the breakdown of the requested fees that's generating the most attention. Court filings show Lively's team is seeking roughly $8 million while listing work performed by 82 attorneys and legal staff. 53 came from Wilkie Farr, while another 29 were from Manette. Baldoni's attorneys argue that despite the enormous legal team, qualifications were submitted for only 11 individuals, leaving dozens of names without supporting information that would allow the court to evaluate whether their billing rates were reasonable. That issue, they say, makes meaningful review difficult from the very beginning. The staffing numbers are only part of the story. One section of the filing focuses on internal conferences and strategy discussions. Baldoni's lawyers calculate that nearly 729 hours were billed for internal meetings, conference calls, and discussions among attorneys. Based on the submitted rates, they argue those conversations alone amount to approximately $894,000. Rather than advancing the litigation itself, the opposition argues that this reflects duplication caused by having such a large legal team. Their position is that when dozens of lawyers participate in the same matter, overlapping work and repeated discussions become almost unavoidable, and they contend those costs should not be transferred to the opposing party. The filing also challenges another significant category of expenses involving sanctions-related litigation. According to the opposition, hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent addressing Rule 11 issues and alleged evidence preservation disputes. Baldoni's attorneys argue those expenses relate to side litigation surrounding the case rather than the core defamation claim itself, making them inappropriate for fee shifting. Transparency is another major point of disagreement. The opposition states that approximately 319.5 hours, representing roughly $361,000 in requested fees, appear with substantial redactions. Baldoni's attorneys argue that because descriptions of the work have been withheld, the court cannot determine whether those charges were necessary or reasonable. Their position is simple: when one party asks someone else to pay legal bills, detailed documentation matters. The same criticism extends to expenses. According to the filing, Lively is requesting more than $540,000 in litigation expenses. Baldoni's attorneys argue that many of those costs lack supporting invoices, receipts, or vendor documentation. Among the questioned expenses are approximately $47,555 in travel costs involving trips between New York and Los Angeles. They also challenge payments connected to media monitoring and reputation analysis. One expense receiving particular attention is roughly $173,000 paid to GBX Holdings. Court filings describe the firm's work as analyzing media coverage, website traffic, public reputation, and social media impact. Baldoni's legal team argues those services resemble public relations or reputation management efforts, not legal work directly tied to defending a lawsuit. According to their opposition, those are business decisions that should remain the responsibility of the party choosing to incur them. The filing goes further. Baldoni's attorneys contend the fee request reaches well beyond defending the defamation claim itself. They argue it attempts to recover work involving employment-related claims, discovery disputes, issues connected to the New York Times, and matters involving Leslie Sloan that extend outside the specific legal issue for which fees are being requested. They also question approximately 185 hours billed for administrative or clerical tasks, arguing that activities such as organizing files and similar office work are typically performed by lower billing support staff rather than attorneys. Another layer of the dispute involves California Civil Code Section 47.1, the statute Lively's legal team has relied upon in seeking fees. According to statements referenced in the filings, Victoria Burke, identified as the author of the legislation, has publicly expressed her view that Lively's case is not representative of the situations the law was intended to address. Reports indicate Burke has stated the judge should not feel obligated to award fees out of concern that doing otherwise would discourage legitimate survivors from coming forward. Those reported comments have become another point emphasized by Baldoni's legal team. Taken together, their opposition presents a consistent argument. The fee request is overly broad, insufficiently documented, and includes expenses that should never be shifted to another party. They argue the court should deny the request in full. The timing also matters. This request comes after the defamation claim did not end in Lively's favor. Baldoni's attorneys argue that seeking millions of dollars under those circumstances requires exceptionally strong supporting documentation. Instead, they contend the filing contains missing biographies, heavily redacted billing entries, questioned expense records, and costs they believe fall outside recoverable legal work. Whether the judge agrees remains to be seen. Ultimately, Judge Liman, not public opinion, will decide whether any portion of the requested fees is recoverable. For now, both sides have laid out sharply different positions. Lively's legal team is asking the court to award approximately $8 million. Baldoni's attorneys say the correct number is zero. They've backed that position with a detailed, line-by-line challenge to the billing records, staffing levels, expense categories, and supporting documentation. Now the issue moves entirely into the judge's hands. Once the court reviews the filings, it will determine whether any of the requested fees satisfy the legal standards for reimbursement, or whether Baldoni's opposition succeeds in convincing the court that none of them should be awarded. That ruling could become one of the most closely watched developments in this ongoing legal battle. The courtroom battle may be approaching another major turning point, but until Judge Liman signs that order, nothing is guaranteed. Right now, the court has two very different stories sitting on the bench. On one side, Blake Lively argues she's entitled to recover approximately $8 million in legal fees. On the other, Justin Baldoni's attorneys insist the request should be denied in its entirety, arguing that the supporting records simply don't justify shifting those costs to the opposing party. What makes this upcoming ruling so significant isn't just the money. It's the precedent. The judge will have to weigh thousands of pages of billing records, legal arguments, expense reports, and statutory interpretations before deciding whether any of these fees meet the legal standard for reimbursement. Every challenged invoice, every redacted billing entry, every disputed expense, and every argument raised in the opposition could influence the final outcome. If the court grants a substantial portion of the request, it could become a major victory for Lively despite losing the underlying defamation claim. If the judge dramatically reduces the award, or denies it altogether, it would represent a significant win for Baldoni's legal team after their detailed, line-by-line attack on the fee petition. Either way, the decision is likely to become one of the most closely analyzed moments in this entire legal saga. One thing is certain, this case has repeatedly taken unexpected turns, and there's every reason to believe the next chapter could be just as surprising. Until the judge issues a ruling, both sides remain in legal limbo, waiting to see whose arguments ultimately carry more weight. As soon as that decision is released, we'll break down the ruling, explain exactly what the judge said, separate the legal facts from the public reaction, and discuss what it means for both Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni moving forward. So, what do you think happens next? Does the court award the full amount, approve only a fraction of the request, or agree with Baldoni's team that the proper figure is zero? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We're following every filing, every hearing, and every new development, and we'll be here with a complete breakdown the moment the next court order is released. Until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next update.